GPS-like precision. We have to get engaged at the systems level, and we have to get engaged politically so that we have a voice, so that those of us that care about the environment collaborate with the people who understand how political systems work. Okay. This says Gentoo penguins come ashore. These penguins are native to sub-Antarctic islands and tend to live in ice-free areas like rocky beaches. Beautiful. Sea turtles, also featured in the episode, traveled thousands of miles throughout their lifetime by following the magnetic field like an invisible map. Mother turtles return to the same beach where they hatched when it's time to lay their own eggs. And salmon similarly use the magnetic field in addition to their incredible sense of smell to return to the very rivers where they spawned. But as much as scientists and researchers have learned about how these animals accomplish their own epic journeys, there is so much more they have yet to understand. Some animals follow the sun, others follow the stars, or can follow the magnetic field, says ornithologist Javier Cotton, featured in the episode Home at the End of the Earth. But the wandering albatross, they probably can do all of those. It's complex. These majestic birds, which spend most of their lives riding the winds over stormy seas, hold their secrets tight. I guess they see things that we don't. We have to get engaged at the system level, and we have to get engaged politically so that we have a voice, so that those of us that care about the environment collaborate with the people who understand how political systems work. True. They are able to survive and thrive in that environment because they're really able to read it well, Cotton says. I wish we could talk to the birds, like, hey, how did you find this place? Cotton explains how an albatross uses a keen sense of smell to locate food from long distances. According to scientists at the University of California, Davis, who conducted several experiments back around 2016, this could also be why many seabirds eat plastic debris, because the plastic can smell like fish. How animals use things like the Earth's magnetic field as a navigational aid is a relatively new field of study and expertise. Kenneth J. Lohman, a biologist professor at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, is at the forefront of research on the relationship between loggerhead turtles and the magnetic field. He published an article last year illustrating how far research like this has come to help scientists better understand journeys across the globe. Kate Mansfield, a marine turtle scientist featured in Ocean Odyssey, studies green sea turtles as avidly as Lohman has researched loggerheads. And just because we know a lot about one kind of turtle doesn't mean we don't still have volumes to learn about others. What we do know is that green turtles in the Gulf have different species-specific orientation tendencies, Mansfield says, and so there is some innate movement perhaps, or an innate compass sense that is he's just a little bit like over possessive. Which, so be it. Rachel Cartwright, back whale researcher featured in Ocean Odyssey, says the young people she works with in the field give her hope that the next generation will not only pick up the mantle of discovery in science, but also bridge the gap into politics to support important conversation efforts. We have to get engaged at the systems level, and we have to get engaged politically so that we have a voice, so that those of us that care about the environment collaborate with the people who understand how political systems work. She says that she has seen exceptionally promising young students studying things like environmental justice and environmental law in tandem. Cartwright is equally inspired by students willing to get their hands dirty in the field and help pick up the pieces after environmental disasters. We have an undergraduate student group coming out in January, and all their emphasis is going to be on restoration and service work in Hawaii and seeing what we can do to help the folks in Lahaina, where there were devastating fires in August, Cartwright says. So I really see that youngsters today are very good at putting two different skills together, and that's the sort of youngsters that could really make a difference. Wow, look at these pretty elephants. Unfortunately, droughts has forced animals to travel further for water. Oh, that's sad, but they're beautiful creatures, aren't they? Monarch butterflies gather at a sanctuary in Mexico change-related natural event recently was the horrific series of wildfires that devastated Lahaina, Hawaii. Lahaina happens to be where Cartwright and her team base much of their research. There are many factors that played into that fire, she says, but the drought and wind situation were likely things spun up and made more intense by our changing climate. Cartwright hopes that these kinds of catastrophic events move people to take action. She says change can start as small as paying more attention to our own carbon footprints, reducing things like meat in our diet, and avoiding things like fast fashion that ends up in landfills. She hopes programming like Incredible Animal Journeys helps inspire the next generation of scientists and even politicians to take action too. The single thing we have to do is get engaged. Thank you. Amen to that. And we have to get engaged at the systems level, and we have to get engaged politically so that we have a voice, she says, adding that young people like volunteers and student interns who help her out in the field during her research are giving their hope that the better future is already on its way. Hope. I sure do hope so. The whale researcher Rachel Cartwright notes that the whales of today are responding to the dangers posed by garbage in the oceans in much the same way that whales of an earlier era responded to whale hunting. The nature of the threat may be different, but it can be just as lethal. Yeah, I will admit that. It's their world. Humans need help to see it their way. Filming these animals in extreme conditions requires innovation and a little inspiration. Over here it says members of the filming crew take photos of iced over Hudson Bay. In Canada, just one of the series' many challenging locations. Winds up to 70 miles per hour, 20-foot waves, temperatures close to negative 50 or 50 below zero. These are among the challenges that the animals featured in National Geographic's Incredible Animal Journey must endure on their epic migration. To film crews and animals, experts behind the series also had to contend with such conditions to keep up with the world's greatest travelers and bring their journeys to the screen. But sometimes it wasn't the weather making things difficult for the filmmakers, it was just finding their subjects in the first place. Working in polar environments is always difficult, especially if you are following animals that are perfectly adapted to the snow, says producer and director Danny Godwin, who points to the snow-white Arctic foxes featured in the polar parenting episode. It is like a needle in a very big haystack. Finding and filming intimate moments between a pair of foxes took Godwin and camera operator Nick Whittop an entire month, during which they faced temperatures low enough to cause frostbite in as little as 5 minutes. They were state-of-the-art cold weather gear, but it proved quite bulky, especially when lugging heavy equipment through the snow. The cameras are heavy to carry, and every step forward usually means you end up waist deep in snow, Godwin says. I think that sometimes the foxes would look at us and wonder why we even attempted to film them. They make it look so easy gliding across the snow. The weather was dangerous for the equipment too. Temperatures that go below freezing can cause the glass Javier Cotton, a bird expert who helped pilot Rafael Bourdrald Simard operate his drone to mirror the flight of the wind-riding albatross, including through 70-mile-per-hour winds and over 20-foot waves. I hope I did not butcher your name, Raphael. I'm sorry if I did. Cotton is seen in the series looking through goggles that show the view from the drone, giving tips to Bertrand Simyard on how to perfect his flying. The albatross-like mile-per-hour winds, he probably wouldn't have believed you, but he would have certainly been intrigued. As a kid growing up outside Quebec City, he had a keen sense of adventure and a love for nature, but it wasn't until a shoulder injury kept him from doing some of his favorite activities, like whitewater kayaking, that he started on a path toward becoming a drone it started clicking a bit more, and then we were able to get it a lot closer. Could you speak a little bit to the particular drone you used? The drone was probably, I want to say, 2 to 2.5 feet wide. Pretty big as far as drones go, but nowhere near as big as an albatross. The main reason for using bigger drones was to be able to fly really good cameras. Often the bigger cameras will the people around me. It's okay to struggle. We're all here for each other. This over here says the black market is closer than you think. New season of Trafficked. January 17th. National Geographic streamed on Hulu. I would really love to see this. Let me know if you've seen it in the comment section. Wow, I really love the photography. Okay, and look at them. They are so pretty. These are wildebeests and zebras in Kenya. And then look at them. They are so pretty and so cute. They're little reindeer. Well, it's a big reindeer and then a baby reindeer. And they're just, making their way through the snow. And here it says, Isobel Gordon carefully sets a dame's fly nymph on a plant stem during a photo shoot in the United Kingdom by Matt Hamworth. And this photo is a picture of southern rock hopper penguins, and they are emerging from the sea. Their names come from the way they jump over obstacles. Oh, nice. And this here is a bundled up Nick Woodop. Keeps track of Arctic foxes in Alaska. And look at this. It's a Texas unicorn mantis hanging out on the neck of bug wrangler John Abbott during filming in Austin, Texas. Wow, it's on his neck. So much to see. Capturing bug lives little by little. If you've ever watched a behind-the-scenes special about a favorite television show, you might think you know something about how TV programs are made. You'd expect sets filled with camera equipment, dramatic lighting rigs, crew members scattered about, and, of course, the stars at the center of it all. And such things are indeed essential to most blue-chip TV series, but there's a barrage of other considerations when your breakout stars are about the size of a period on a newspaper page. The National Geographic series, A Real Bug's Life, is unlike anything its crew had worked on. Each episode brought to life through narration from Golden Globe-winning actress and comedian Aquafina. It's truly a cinematic level production, with each bug acting as the star of its own little drama. When a show's stars are this small, the challenges involved in filming are huge. Cinematographer Catherine Hannaford captures footage of a firefly at a Tennessee farm for the National Geographic series such specialists as macro cinematographers and seasoned bug wranglers. Yes, that's what they're really called. It is much more than a drama than a classic natural history show, says cinematographer Nathan Small, who worked on the episodes The Big City and The Busy Farm. He notes, the whole thing was just constant problem solving, building weird contraptions that do niche things, and then an uphill battle trying to get the stars to do the thing you need them to do. Big cameras for little stars. To get incredibly detailed shots that put viewers inside the world of a creature no bigger than a millimeter or two, you need highly specialized equipment. They say the smaller the thing you're filming, the more stuff you need. So it was pretty funny seeing a van's worth of kit all set up to film an ant. This, Small says, those kits included the so-called macro lenses that allow for extreme close-ups. Hannaford describes using probe lenses, cylindrical tools that bring tiny subjects into sharp focus. They also help convey the sense that you're looking at the bug's world through their eyes to make the shots come alive and feel more cinematic with cool camera moves like you're used to seeing in the movies. We used custom-built robots, Small says. We can then control the cameras using a gaming controller, which is way more smooth and precise than a human using a tripod. Backplates, which are backdrops used often in macro cinematography, also helped filmmakers clearly show off the landscapes surrounding the minute creatures. As soon as you start to get into big close-ups of very small things, you really start to lose focus. The depths of field is very shallow, says wildlife macro cinematography specialist Romnelli Spears, who worked on the episode Tiny Heroes Down Under. With the backplate, we were able to bring it in right close up to our subject and still be able to see a feature of the precinct that the episode was set in. The crew used LED lighting to give each scene a cinematic feel without harming the tiny creatures or leading them to behave unnaturally as they would have under old school lighting, which runs hot. We did use lighting to help the cinematography kind of look filmic, but also just because they're so small and we're trying to get up. We did use lighting to help the cinematography kind of look filmic, but also just because they're so small and we're trying to get so up in their world. Hannaford says, the way the optics work with the lenses, it means you need way more light than you do with regular size things. Even with this arsenal of specialized technology, there still wouldn't be shots without the stars. That's where the bug wranglers came in. Okay, and then look at these two photographs. This is a photo of a camera and it says, lights, camera, action. A cockroach is the star of this scene being shot in Bristol, England. The roach can be seen saluted against the light tube. The magnified image captured by the camera is shown on the monitor below it. wranglers had never dealt with before. I would know their natural behaviors just from my background, says entomologist Lucia Chamarovo, who worked on the big city and the busy farm, but I never really put them into situations where you need to influence them to do specific things. So I think that was just really interesting to figure out. Sometimes getting the necessary action shots requires a little movie magic. Amen. Sleight of hand. No, there weren't any stunt bugs barreling through the frame, but there were moments where the crew had to get creative. For one scene in Tiny Heroes Down Under, the crew had to film a jumping jack ant stinging something. These ants were among the most dangerous bugs in the production because their venom can cause a life-threatening allergic reaction. So the filmmakers opted to use a prosthetic hand for the shot. Did you hear that? This ant, let's just name him, this one Anthony, and they had to use a prosthetic hand because it could sting something and harm it. And this is Matt Haworth adjusting a stickleback nest of eggs inside an aquarium that stimulates a pond. So a custom-made lens can push past it in an underwater shot. Matt Haworth. Then it goes on to describe that my 16-year-old daughter, who is a budding makeup artist, she actually did all of the makeup for the hand, which looked fantastic. I was standing in for the real hand. I was standing in for the real hand. Right up until it was about to jump on me. Henderson says the crew cut the shot just before the ant touched Henderson's finger, swapped in the prosthetic for the sting, and then cut to an actor pretending to be in pain. Cinematographer Smalls recalls another moment on one of his shoots for the big city that was perhaps less dangerous, but certainly no more glamorous. Filming a fly landing on dog poo on the streets of New York. What a career highlight. Thank you, National Geographic. Small jokes. It was a hot New York summer, so my job was to keep the poo looking moist and freshly deposited, using a little straw and a glass of water. Needless to say, the cinematographers and bug wranglers needed some extreme patience to get the shots they required. They'll act when they're ready. It was like herding microscopic cats, Henderson says, of working with baby peacock spiders. For the Tiny Heroes Down Under episode, literally these tiny things were about the size of a grain of salt each. Henderson and Spears recall finding baby peacock spiders that had crawled inside a small hole at the end of a long macro camera lens. They were, of course, sure to give the bugs the red carpet treatment, taking special care to ensure they were safe, healthy, and relaxed on and off screen. That meant a lot of waiting for the creatures to decide to crawl back out and continue shooting. It was like filming a speck of dust. You could barely see it on the set. You had to have someone point it out to you, Spears universal languages, and one can drive the other. Music can make us feel fear, joy, sadness, and much more, sometimes all at once. A musical score for a film or TV series sets the tone for what we can expect to experience. It is the pulse of cinematic entertainment, and yet we often don't pay conscious attention to it. If it's done well, that is. And if we've done our job properly, the score is a blanket that allows you to ride through the show and not peek its head out and become the star, says 5-time Emmy-nominated music editor Steve Griffin. It's a vehicle, a medium for storytelling. To help tell the stories of A Real Bug's Life, streaming January 24th on Disney Plus, National Geographic brought together a dream team and tasked them with creating a perfectly poignant and quirky musical score. It consisted of Griffin and composer Mark Mothersbaugh, who both work on the lauded is no easy feat. But that wasn't the only challenge facing the musical team. There was a laundry list of other obstacles, not least of which was working with teams scattered across the globe. We had a 2-hour overlap of working hours, Griffin explains, from Los Angeles. So I'm not getting real-time feedback from production in the United Kingdom. And to further complicate things, the studio who makes these decisions was in DC, in another time zone, so we were left to find the direction for the score and then be told if it was right or wrong the next day. Creating a unified contemporary orchestral score for multiple episodes with characters that experience such a wide range of emotions was also tough. The challenge is really giving a cohesive sound to the music, but also being able to switch gears and play something very goofy and fun next to something very serious and maybe even sad, Bladen says. Bladen says that he was able to find common threads between the lives of TV drama characters and those of bugs. In the bug world, it's a lot are the zebras. A plains zebra in full. Humpback whale calves only have 4 to 6 weeks in the sanctuary waters of Hawaii before they must make one of the longest migrations on Earth, a 3,000-mile swim to their feeding grounds in Alaska. For little humpback whale calves, when they're born, they're about 12 feet long, 2,000 pounds, and they can barely swim. They would be orca snacks in Alaskan waters. Wow, isn't that just amazing? During those first few weeks of life, baby humpbacks increase their dive time from around 20 seconds to 4 minutes by doing a lot of high energy activity to build up a substance called myoglobin, which provides oxygen to muscle cells, and they grow quickly, about 45 centimeters, roughly 1.5 feet per month. It's just such an elevated rate of development because if you think of a newborn human baby between birth and 6 weeks, they may have learned to smile, and that's about it, Cartwright says, whereas our calves are getting ready for literally the trip of a lifetime. Arctic caribou, featured in the episode Polar Parenting, also come into the world remarkably capable. By the end of what he thinks are warriors to defend his colony from a gang of grasshoppers, only to discover that they are really unemployed performers from a